Where does the right to an attorney come from? The right to an attorney in criminal proceedings is derived from the U.S. Constitution and the United States Supreme Court's interpretation of amendments. The case most on point with an individual's right to an attorney is Gideon v. Wainwright, 1963, a case granted certiorari by the U.S. Supreme Court. Clarence Gideon was charged by information in Florida with breaking and entering with intent to commit a misdemeanor, which was a felony in Florida in 1961. Gideon was charged with this crime largely as the result of a witness who reported he saw Gideon near the pool room that was broken into on June 3, 1961. At Gideon's trial, he requested an attorney because he was indigent or poor. The state court refused to appoint Gideon counsel, stating, "Mr. Gideon, I am sorry, but I cannot appoint counsel to represent you in this case. Under the laws of the state of Florida, the only time the court can appoint counsel to represent a defendant is when the person is charged with a capital offense. I'm sorry, but I will have to deny your request to appoint counsel to defend you in this case." To which Gideon replied, "The United States Supreme Court says I'm entitled to be represented by counsel." Gideon was not appointed counsel. Instead, Gideon chose to defend himself. He called witnesses, cross-examined witnesses, and made opening and closing statements. But ultimately, Gideon was found guilty and sentenced to 5 years. Shortly thereafter, Gideon filed a habeas corpus petition with the Florida Supreme Court. Habeas corpus means you have the body. This petition was denied by the Florida Supreme Court, and ultimately the U.S. Supreme Court granted certiorari to call up Gideon's case and address whether an indigent defendant is entitled to the appointment of counsel in criminal proceedings. The Supreme Court previously ruled in Betts v. Brady, 1942, a case very similar to Gideon's case, that indigent defendants were not entitled to the appointment of counsel when prosecuted by the state. The right to counsel when accused of a crime is derived from the Sixth Amendment. The first 10 amendments apply to the government and not the states, but can be applied to the states through the 14th Amendment. At the time of Betts, the court did not believe that the Sixth Amendment right to counsel applied to the states. However, the U.S. Supreme Court ultimately overruled Betts through Gideon by holding that the assistance of counsel is a fundamental right, essential to a fair trial, and the state's failure to provide an indigent defendant with an attorney violates the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution and is essential to a fair trial. Gideon ultimately led to the rise of the public defender,